what sites your kids have visited lately. You know, some parents are worried about those filters that you'll have to ask your kids how to put them on there. But if you can check up on them, then that's real power. And recently, the Federal Trade Commission pointed out that some of these entertainment companies have warned parents that the material is inappropriate for children, and then they've turned around behind the backs of the parents and advertised that same adult material directly to children. That is an outrage. Joe Lieberman and I gave them 6 months to clean up their act. And if they don't do it, we're going to ask for tougher authority in the hands of the FTC on the false and deceptive advertising. I'll tell you this. I want to do something about this. Respect the First Amendment, but I will do something to help you raise your kids without that garbage.
All right. Vice President Gore, the next question is for you, and it will be asked by Stephen Koosman. Mr. Koosman, where are you, sir? Right behind me as well. There we go.
Right next to the last.
Yeah, got it. Good planning.
It seems that when we hear about issues of this campaign, it's usually Medicare, Social Security, or prescription drugs. As a college professor, I hear a lot of apathy amongst young people who feel that there are no issues directed to them. And they don't plan to vote. How do you address that?
We've got to change it. I spend a good deal of time talking to young people, and in my standard speech out there on the stump, I usually end my speech by saying, I want to ask you for something, and I want to direct it especially to the young people in the audience. And I want to tell you what I tell them. Sometimes people who are very idealistic and have great dreams, as young people do, are apt to stay at arm's length from the political process because they think their good hearts might be brittle. And if they invest their hopes and allow themselves to believe, then they're going to be let down and disappointed.
Ask for your vote. I ask for...
We've always had enough people who have been willing in every generation to push past the fear of a broken heart and become deeply involved in forming a more perfect union. We're America, and we believe in our future, and we know we have the ability to shape our future. Now, we've got to address one of the biggest threats to our democracy, and that is the current campaign financing system. And I know they say it doesn't rank anywhere on the polls. I don't believe that's a fair measure. I'm telling you, I will make the McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform bill the very first measure that I send to the Congress as president. Governor Bush opposes it. I wish that he would consider changing his mind on that, because I think that the special interests have too much power, and we need to give our democracy back to the American people. Let me tell you why. Those issues you mentioned, Social Security, prescription drugs, the big drug companies are against the prescription drug proposal that I've made. The HMOs are against the patients' rights bill, the Dingell-Norwood bill that I support and that Governor Bush does not support. The big oil companies are against the measures to get more energy independence and renewable fuels. They ought to have their voices heard, but they shouldn't have a big megaphone that drowns out the American people. We need campaign finance reform, and we need to shoot straight with young and old alike and tell them what the real choices are. And we can renew and rekindle the American spirit and make our future what our founders dreamed it could be. We can.
Right. Governor Bush, 2 minutes.
I'll tell you what I hear. A lot of people are sick and tired of the bitterness in Washington, D.C., and therefore they don't want any part of politics. They look at Washington and see people pointing fingers and casting blame and saying one thing and doing another. There's a lot of young folks saying, you know, why do I want to be involved with this mess? And what I think needs to happen in order to encourage the young to become involved is to shoot straight, is to set aside the partisan differences and set an agenda that will make sense. Medicare, I know you talked about it, but Medicare is relevant for all of us, young and old alike. We better get it right now. Tax reform is relevant for old and young alike. I don't think it's the issues that turn kids off. I think it's the tone. I think it's the attitude. I think it's a cynicism in Washington, and it doesn't have to be that way. Before I decided to run, I had to resolve 2 issues in my mind. One, could our family endure all this business? And I came to the conclusion that our love was strong enough to be able to do it. And the other was, could an administration change the tone in Washington, D.C.? And I believe the answer is yes, otherwise I wouldn't be asking for your vote. That's what happened in Texas. We worked together. There's a man here in this audience named Hugo Berlanga. He's the chairman of the Health Committee. He came here for a reason, to tout our record on health in Texas. He's a Democrat. I didn't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. What I cared about is, could we work together? That's what Washington, D.C. needs. And finally, sir, to answer your question, it needs somebody in office who will tell the truth. That's the best way to get people back in the system.
Governor Bush, Norma Kirby has the next question, and it's for you. Norma Kirby,
Okay.
where are you?
Hi, Norma.
Hi. How will your administration address diversity, inclusiveness, and what role will affirmative action play in your overall plan?
I've had a record of bringing people from all walks of life into my administration, and my administration is better off for it in Texas. I'm going to find people that want to serve their country. But I want a diverse administration. I think it's important. I've worked hard in the state of Texas to make sure our institutions reflect the state with good, smart policy. Policy that rejects quotas. I don't like quotas. Quotas tend to pit one group of people against another. Quotas are bad for America. It's not the way America is all about. But policies that give people a helping hand, so they can help themselves. For example, in our state of Texas, I worked with the legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, to pass a law that said if you come in the top 10% of your high school class, you're automatically admitted to one of our higher institutions of learning, college. And as a result, our universities are now more diverse. It was a smart thing to do. It's what I called it. I labeled it affirmative access. I think the contracting business in government can help, not with quotas, but help meet a goal of ownership of small businesses, for example. The contracts need to be smaller. The agencies need to recruit and to work hard to find people to bid on the state contracts. I think we can do that in a way that that represents what America is all about, which is equal opportunity and an opportunity for people to realize their potential. So to answer your question, I support, I guess the way to put it is affirmative access. And I'll have an administration that will make you proud. Thank you.
Vice President Gore.
I believe in this goal and this effort with all my heart. I believe that our future as a nation depends upon whether or not we can break down these barriers that have been used to pit group against group and bring our people together. How do you do it? Well, you establish respect for differences. You don't ignore differences. It's all too easy for somebody in the majority in the population to say, oh, we're just all the same, without an understanding of the different life experience that you've had, that others have had. Once you have that understanding and mutual respect, then we can transcend the differences and embrace the highest common denominator of the American spirit. I don't know what affirmative access means. I do know what affirmative action means. I know the governor's against it, and I know that I'm for it. I know what a hate crime statute pending at the national level is all about in the aftermath of James Byrd's death. I'm for that proposed law. The governor is against it. I know what